Good morning. This is the Patriot Trading News Hour. I am the guest host, Jason, the guy that runs the Colorado office for the Patriot Trading Group. The number to call to buy gold and silver from this family-owned business is 800-951-0592. Joe's pretty steady and does this show every day, and I'm pretty steady myself and my partner Bryan on the afternoon show in Colorado, the Colorado Front Range News Hour. And we don't do a whole lot of guest hosting, but Joe needs a day off here and there, and I need a day off once in a while. We had our old partner Glenn Biddle. He was on the Colorado Front Range News Hour yesterday to help us out. I had a previous appointment that took part of the first show, that show yesterday, but I'd like to come on and guest host. I have no problem talking to Arizona. Over there at KXXT, and I'm broadcasting here from KHNC 1360 in Colorado, and I think I got a pretty good show for you. A lot of gloom and doom for your Friday. I remember listening to Eric and Joe over the years, kind of say, well, we don't really want to panic or scare you, but we want to give you the information. I know what they were saying. We're giving you a lot of scary information because you need to know why you're supposed to be buying gold and silver. So I don't hide it quite as much as Joe and Eric do. If I got a gloom and doom show, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to be talking about retail apocalypse. I had a conversation with some people yesterday. My wife had a little gathering, and I listened to these people that work at stores, people that own businesses, and really, if you want to know what's going on, you just got to look around and have some conversations. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And I'm going to talk about Ponzi schemes. I'm going to talk about the Ponzi scheme, the Federal Reserve System. These central banks across the world run this money Ponzi scheme, and I'm going to connect the dots between this retail apocalypse and stuff that seems harder and harder to get. And you want to buy an item here in Colorado, and I know it's across the country, and they tell you got to wait 4 months to get certain items or 6 months to get an item. And then there's it's very interesting, and so I'm gonna cover a whole lot of that. If you want to, like I say once again, if you want to order gold and silver, I do have some gold that I'm going to be talking about selling. But if you want to jump on and just listen to the show, I know some of our guys would rather just buy the gold and then listen to the show. Do it now. We've got 10th ounce gold eagles available at $265. Joe was trying to fill some orders in Colorado and then just stumbled upon some more. So he's it's all about supply and demand, and there's a little more demand here in Colorado, so he's just picked up another roll. And so we got 10th ounce gold pieces for $265. I'll talk more about it later in the show. And we have those $10 liberties, essentially a quarter ounce gold coins, pre-33. Our bread and butter, $10 liberties, $20 liberties, $5 liberties. What you do is get you secure that old gold. Those are $1,035. We have some of those available, and I'm going to give you a show that's going to make you think long and hard about how much gold you have and how much more you should be getting, because what you see on the television, what you hear on other radio stations, what you look on your smartphone, the information they're giving you is just not reality. And I'm going to play some stuff that I disagree with. I got a couple of clips. I'm going to play some stuff that I do agree with, and sometimes it's good to let somebody else speak for you, because I got this guy who's kind of like kind of the English Howard Cosell. He's got this a little bit of an English accent, and he's going to talk about what's going on with retail stores and how they're disappearing and why they're disappearing and why a lot of them are going to be filing bankruptcy at record levels. Everything's supposed to be opening up. The worst is supposed to be behind us. But then why does all the information around us seem like something's building to a much more, I would say, sinister timed event for markets to crash and burn? And what made-up emergency is going to happen this time? I know this stuff's going to happen, and I predicted this stuff because all you have to do is look at history. I always look at history, what happened behind us, to predict what's going to happen ahead of us. When Joe went on the air 3 years ago on Groundhog's Day in 2018 and wanted to bolster sales in Colorado, he didn't know what was going on in Colorado. He either had to close up shop here or he was going to open a physical office and heat it up. He asked for someone to buy into his company. myself and Bryan are two of the guys that called, that he accepted. We had about 25 guys that called, and we were the best of the lot. And I was so convinced of a massive market crash, which did sort of happen last year, and then they sort of bounced it back up. I think it was kind of a hiccup before the big belch, so to say, is coming. But I knew something was going to happen because I looked at 9/11 and economically what was going on with that. I looked at the housing bubble that burst in 2008, and these boom and bust cycles, which are planned. And the one we're headed for now is possibly a global monetary reset. And I knew it was coming. So when I heard Joe say, I want someone to buy into my company, I was like, it was an automatic. I was already selling gold and silver part-time on my own. This was a bigger and better way to do it. I knew something big was happening. I basically predicted coronavirus. I didn't predict a pandemic, or that this was the method and the mode of fear and control they were going to place upon the citizenry, but I knew it was going to happen, something. I knew so much that I sold my house and gave Joe all of my equity, because I came in small, then I had to come in larger. It was not part-time, which Joe was offering. It was full-time. So I gave him all. I gave him part of my equity of my house to buy part way in, and then I gave him all the equity, and I got a loan. I got it's not cheap buying into Joe and Eric's company. And sure enough, in 2019, going into 2020, things started happening, and they're continuing to happen. So when I get back from this break, we're going to talk a little bit about retail apocalypse. I got a story about some people I talked to, and we're going to cover Ponzi scheme. We're going to do the basics. Stay tuned. Patriot Trading News Hours coming right back. Yeah, that's right. Everything you hear is fake. I'm going to talk a little bit about fake, and Ponzi schemes are very fake. Before I get into, I'm going to do a little bit of Ponzi Scheme 101, and how I'm going to do a little editing on this little clip I got as it pertains to a central bank system. But I had a conversation. My wife had we bought a new house. So since the 3 years have passed, I've since had some collectible coins that I thought I was going to hold on to for a long time. But when coronavirus hit last year, I started seeing a quickening of events that were going to be real massively bad economic things coming. And whether it takes a couple of months, takes about a year, 18 months, but it's coming fast. So I sold these collectible coins, or they're hard times tokens. I had a lot of very expensive collectible coins. It was the last asset I had that, besides my savings. But I sold those off to get the down payment to my house. So because the way I was looking at it, if inflation becomes rampant and the economic numbers stop making sense, which they already have, but they're getting worse every day, I wanted to be in a fixed payment. Buying a house, there's taxes. I know all the pros and cons to buying a house or renting, but I thought, well, when things get bad enough, I don't want to be paying $3,000 a month rent. When things really get crazy, I'd rather have the fixed payment. If inflation goes crazy over the next few years, which I foresee, and it's happening crazy this year already, I want a fixed payment. So I went ahead and sold those coins. I bought into a house, and it was an unfinished basement. And I've said the story in the Colorado show a few times, but it was the very end of October, and then so on November 1st, I got in the house, and I immediately had guys in there, and I bought a bunch of materials to finish the basement. I wanted a full completed house because I needed the basement. My son's was 16, he's going to be turning 17, and he needed his space. He's just slowly start moving his way into his own life. And if I would have waited just till January or February, the finished basement materials would have cost $20,000 more than what I paid. So there's your inflation. So my wife had a gathering of some people, and several of these people at the gathering worked at a local furniture store. And they started talking, about what's going on at the store, and there's a lot of stress there. And I had bought some furniture at a few stores because I bought a house, so it's time to buy some furniture. And we had to wait 4 months for some stuff. 4 months to get a chair. And obviously these are economic signs. And so I'm watching this. I do a radio show, and I sell gold and silver, and And I started talking to these ladies that actually work at the store that gives me the furniture that takes 4 months. And they're starting to say, well, some of the stuff's going to start taking 6 months. 6 months. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's worse than 4 months. And then they started talking about, well, you people pay for this furniture. You have to pay, and then 6 months later you get your furniture. And I wasn't really, we started having the conversation, and there was no less than 5 of the employees there, and so there's going to be some that are at a lower level, but averaging about $100,000 of wait and see furniture. 5 salespeople that have between, let's just say, 75,000 and 150,000 in these sales that they can't collect on until 5 or 6 months later the furniture shows up. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, that's Ponzi scheme. We have a Ponzi scheme that is a fake, made-up idea of money. It's Federal Reserve notes. It's fraudulent, fake, made-up idea. It's the Federal Reserve note, the Federal Reserve system, the dollar, backed by the Fed, is a worldwide Ponzi scheme. And the way a Ponzi scheme continues to be successful is to increase the amount of fake fraudulent money that's going into people's pockets to keep it working. So I'm hearing these ladies are like just between 5 salespeople. There's over $500,000 in people that showed up, put their money down, and they're going to wait 4 months, 5 months, 6 months to get their furniture. That money's just sitting there doing nothing. What a great way to increase your Ponzi scheme. And I'm thinking about, that when these boom and bust cycles happen, these are timed events. They don't just accidentally happen like the news will report. Oh, COVID-19 and a pandemic showed up, and now we have the Dow Jones down in March and April of last year, down 35% over 8 weeks. That's not an accident. These are planned events. And I won't argue the validity of coronavirus on this show, but a whole lot of misinformation. People get sick and die, and I didn't see millions of people dying. I didn't see, like in 1958, when the H2N2 hit America, when Elvis Presley was on tour, and you had Ike as president, and 120,000 Americans died of a virus. And they didn't shut down nothing. There was no masks. They did what people do. You do the best you can to not get sick and die and get hurt, and they moved on from it. And we had half the population in 1958 that we have now. So they have to point the finger when things are going the wrong way. And what are they saying now? And I'm going to play a clip here. Economic apocalypse. This guy is pretty fun to listen to. But they want to blame it on ships stuck at the Suez Canal, or we had some cold weather in Texas, and all of these things. And this guy he'll dig into some of that. But it ain't that. When the Ponzi scheme gets weak, the Ponzi schemer will tell anybody down the chain, the pyramid scheme, anything that they need to hear to keep this thing together. And when one furniture store in this local area has 5 sales associates with $500,000 in products they can't deliver on, what's going to happen if this next market crash happens and all these people say, I got to cancel, I lost my job. They're not giving me enough stimulus, which we're going to talk a little bit about the free money. Giving out free money, putting money into an account for furniture you can't get for 6 months. They're stuffing all of this fake money into so many places because they don't want this thing to die. The powers that be, the globalists, they don't want this thing to die right now. They want it to die at a prescribed time. And why do I get the feeling it might be something along the lines of a mutated version of coronavirus during the so-called flu season in October? Why do I get the feeling it's going to be something along those lines? So I'm gonna play a little bit of Ponzi. I'm gonna play the Ponzi scheme thing here, and I'm gonna play this guy talking about retail apocalypse coming. And this is this is what is happening in America and across the world today. Let's do the 101 Ponzi scheme, the basic information. I'll cut in when it comes to him talking about as I relate it to the Federal Reserve.
and you may know a little about it, but do you know how to spot a Ponzi scheme? A Ponzi is a fraudulent investment scheme that promises guaranteed returns to its investors from their own money rather than profits earned from a legitimate business venture. Ponzi schemes are perfect for con artists because they can easily be set up. All they need is to look official, a little advertising, and lots of people who are willing to part with their money.
Kind of like the Federal Reserve, who basically runs our government. They look official. It's the Fed. They help us with our money.
Here's the pitch. Invest right now for big returns in only 6 months. It's guaranteed and risk-free. Don't worry, we'll take care of all the paperwork.
The Fed takes care of all the paperwork. Don't worry, the dollar's always going to be strong.
And this is perfectly legal. But don't tell him.
Oh, it's legal, yes. In 1913, Woodrow Wilson signed the Federal Reserve Act. It's legal.
Anyone, you're investing. This is a secret. Round 1. The con artist pockets the investor's money. Round 2. The circle of investors grows. The con artist uses some of the new money to pay earlier investors. Round 3. Earlier investors are believers now, so they recruit family and friends to join in, and at the request of the con artist, reinvest their profits. Again, some of the new money is paid to earlier investors to whet their appetite. Eventually, the con artist can't bring in enough new investors to make good on promises he's already made to earlier investors. The scheme collapses. The con artist takes off. And most investors lose everything. You can spot a Ponzi. You just have to watch for these signs. The investment is described as guaranteed and risk-free.
The Federal Reserve note, it's guaranteed. It's risk-free.
Financial statements and documents are either questionable or completely non-existent.
We cannot audit the Fed. There are no numbers. We can't audit. We don't know these numbers. They're either fraudulent what they tell us, or we can't see it.
The answers to your questions really don't make any sense.
What about the Fed ever makes sense?
Checks are made payable to the individual, not the company. The mail goes to a post office box.
Where you pay your federal income tax, which is the collection arm of the Fed, it goes to the United States Treasury. Very official sounding, very, it's our duty. Pay that federal income tax to the government, which isn't going to the government. It's going to the interest on the debt.
A big talker insists that you must buy now.
Got to use it now. There is no other choice in this country. You have to use Federal Reserve notes.
It sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, the dollar is always going to be strong. It's the number one thing. It's always going to. It's fiat currency, but it's the best thing ever. We're forcing countries across the world. We're expanding this Ponzi scheme everywhere. It's never going to end. These things never crash. Ponzi schemes last forever.
If you see any of these signs, don't commit your money. Walk away. Better yet, run away.
And you can walk away in small part by simply calling the number. This is what we do here. How do you walk away from the Federal Reserve note Ponzi scheme? You call our number, 800-951-0592. That's why we sell you gold and silver. This is why I got into it. When you figure out how fraudulent and empty their promises are, yeah, it may take a while. When the Ponzi scheme was getting weak in the 60s and these other countries wanted to repatriate their gold and take it back to France and Portugal and Spain and Italy, well, they just, you just have Richard Nixon disconnect gold to the dollar. And then you make promises to these other countries. Well, we're going to hold the gold here. We can't give you that gold back, but we'll give you all the financial stimulus you need to make sure things work. If things get a little inflated, don't worry about it. And then they had to figure more places to stuff this money. So you have, let's go to the Middle East. You got the Shiite and the Sunni. The Shiite are more religiously close to their roots, Muslims, and the Sunni are more malleable, like the Saudi Arabians. The Saudi Arabians, which are one of the most brutal countries in the area, well, they're friends of America. Why? Because they spend petrodollars. We stuff a bunch of You have to buy and sell all your oil in Saudi Arabia with dollars, and we'll give you tanks and planes, and you can go blow up your enemies, and we'll make sure that Israel won't blow you up or kill you, or whatever promises are made, as long as we can stuff those Federal Reserve notes into your country. And all of the Middle Eastern countries that spend petrodollars, they're our friends. If you're Iran or Iraq or Libya, and you want to have your own independent money system, we can't have that. We need those resources under our control. We need to stuff these dollars everywhere. And I'm going to be hitting the break here in a little bit. My partner Bryan is locked and loaded here. He's going to be coming on with me here after the break. And I'm going to play a little bit of retail apocalypse. I think we're going to see in this next market crash, they're going to really, and you feel it, you're less free to go do what you want when you want. And if you want to go to a ball game or a concert, it's going to be a privilege. It feels so good to get back to Red Rocks, as I heard on the news. They had a concert last night. These aren't privileges, they are freedoms. They're being taken. Welcome back. This is the Patriot Trading News Hour. I've got my co-host Bryan here. I'm going to bring him in just a second, but I wanted to just finish. We're talking about Ponzi scheme, and I'm going to play some stuff here in a moment with retail apocalypse. When we're talking Ponzi scheme and money is an idea, the money makers and the money owners, the guys that make us, it says right there on the paper note, Federal Reserve note, it's their money. It says it right there. When you run this Ponzi scheme, you got to keep it. You got to keep people thinking it's worth worthwhile to stay in, and so they are begging other countries to buy U.S. Treasury bonds. They're pushing this money and through a stimulus, universal basic income checks. They're handing it to people, and if you're unemployed, you can get your check, and then you can get your unemployment check. They're sending it to businesses. They're making people not have to pay their rent or their mortgage. How long is that going to last? And with a Ponzi scheme, and I'm going to bring Bryan in here. With a Ponzi scheme, you have to have a little bit going back in the direction of the people below you so that you can keep people in it. And I think what you're seeing with this retail apocalypse, what I talked about earlier, where people are buying furniture and they're afraid to actually cancel their orders because things are getting so inflated and so expensive so quickly that they said, hey, 4 to 6 months to get my chair, but if I cancel and find a chair somewhere else, it's going to cost me more. So they almost get you in sort of a trap. And so what are they doing? They're going to say, hey, buy something now. It's like Wimpy from the Popeye cartoons. I'll gladly pay you Wednesday for a hamburger today. But it's reversed. You pay for the hamburger and you get it on Wednesday. And this is not going to end well, Bryan. I mean, I'm sure you've been listening. This is crazy that someone, these sales associates over at this furniture store have hundreds of thousands of dollars in furniture that's not being delivered for months. Did you hear all this?
I did. Great points, Jason. And let's talk about some of these terms. You're talking about Ponzi scheme and defining it. A Federal Reserve System. It's not federal. They have no reserves. That's why we call it fraudulent. And just like you talked about with the Ponzi scheme, Bernie Madoff, yeah, it was illegal what he was doing, but did the people really not question putting their money in, and then, like you said, recruiting others just to, because they got into the multi-level marketing thing earlier than everybody else, they stand to profit. Well, as Joe often says and reminds us, if it ever comes to the point in time where you go to the bank to get your what they want us to call it dollars, which is actually paper currency or fiat notes, we're pretty low on the list on that multi-level marketing scheme.
Correct. And it breeds
unless you get it out.
Yeah, and it breeds all kinds of weird behavior, like these stimulus checks. Well, just because we got to, people couldn't work because of coronavirus, so we got to help them out. Well, it's not coronavirus that did this. It's the government, which is it's under the control of these bankers and these criminals and these corporatists. And so Joe was talking this morning about a restaurant there in an Arizona area where the guy can't open his restaurant. Not because it's not allowed, but because he can't find people to hire. He can't find people to actually work the store that makes economic sense. Because people can make money sitting at home doing nothing. Why would they want to work a job? So his business is just takeout only. You know, he's got the employees that he has working there. Joe said this guy had his dishwashers working 7 days a week, and because he's getting overtime, it's costing him just as much. But he can't fill a position for another part-timer guy. This is what happens when you give out free money and you don't have anything of substantial value in return for it. You know, I'm going to give you.
There's no such thing, Jason. That's what they tell us, and it is initially. It's free money, like a credit card. It's free at first, but at some point, there's going to be a steep price to pay.
Correct. And so, what if you don't pay your workers $25 an hour? Why would they want to work at McDonald's? You know, I got a little ditty, a little song here I'm going to play. I mean, this is what's actually happened. Listen to this guy, Buddy Brown. He makes a great point here. I'm going to play this real quick.
What's going on, y'all? You know what I find absolutely hilarious? I turned on the news a couple days ago and I saw Karen. And Karen is losing her dadgum mind because she had to wait 53 minutes to get her chicken nuggets in the McDonald's drive-thru. And I just want to say, this is what you voted for, darling, because y'all see, Karen votes Democrat all the way down the line. And in that little dream that they have is universal base income. Everybody gets free money. Money for doing nothing. That's the new dream right there. So Karen, when nobody's at the service industry restaurants, it don't even stop at McDonald's. It's going to go all the way up the ladder. You just wait. And you're trying to figure it out? This is why. I wrote a little song for you. There once was a land of McDonald's workers. $10 an hour for flipping those burgers. Then stimulus checks came onto the scene. They soon figured out a new way to make green. Now nobody works at McDonald's. Nobody flips burgers no more. Nobody works at McDonald's when free money comes right to the door. No happy meals through the window. No intercom giving you sass. Nobody works at McDonald's when they pay you to sit on your ass.
There you go. I mean, did you hear that, Brian? Retail apocalypse. I'm telling you, it's coming.
Money for nothing and your checks for free. A play on the afternoon Patriot show.
This is the kind of chaos that's going on. Restaurants that can't even serve you inside because they don't have enough employees because they can't get people hired on, but free checks are flying out the door because something's getting ready to happen. And it's going to be something we've probably never seen before. I can't predict exactly what their scheme is. You know, 9/11, that was a scheme. That was an event. That was a fake event. It wasn't reported right. That was a planned collapse of 3 buildings actually. Excuse me for that mistake. But it was
2 planes, 3 buildings. That's the new math, Jason.
That's
3
it.
buildings, 2 planes.
Correct. And so they're going to do this again because this is a global monetary problem now. There's nowhere else to stuff these dollars. All the cupboards, the cabinets are full. You know, it's coming out the windows. The neighbors are starting to see the ugliness of these of hoarding all these dollars, and they're going to have a change. And when we come back from the next break, Brian, I'm going to play a little clip of this guy talking about the economic apocalypse, and he's going to talk about. I'm going to play the one where he actually talks about the Suez Canal and weather in Texas. Anytime, if you're listening to this clip, listeners, on the next segment, don't think it's because of Suez Canal ships and weather problems. Think it's a broken system, and they have to point the finger somewhere else. Brian and I, we're going to return after a short break. Stay tuned. The Patriot Trading News Hour, 800-951-0592. We'll have some gold coming. Welcome back, Patriot Trading News Hour. I'm your guest host, Jason, and Brian's with me from the Colorado Front Range News Hour, our 3 o'clock show, local Colorado time. Fake News Friday. You know, this is Jack Daniels Friday, and we were inspired to do Fake News Friday. Call over there and give us a funny story or a funny joke during the show. We'll give you a silver dollar. If you're in Arizona, you want to go to 1360khnc.com and stream us in, and you can call in and get your. We'll ship you it. We'll send you a silver dollar if you make us laugh over there. Just have some fun. Go to 1360khnc.com and enjoy the quality programming we have here. So we were talking about the retail apocalypse, Brian. I'll give you a moment to make a comment or two, but I want to play this guy. What's his name? He goes by the Epic Economist. He does some videos and he puts out these cool little videos. I don't play him very often, but he's got a couple of good ones for this, Brian. But things are dire, and we help you with some of these things to fear, because gold and silver is really your best way outside of it.
Well, I mean, good example you started with, Jason. Just look at what's happening with the supply chain, whether you want to talk about restaurants or furniture. Those supply chains, around here with the agricultural producers having to dump the milk out because they're not set up to be able to put it in small, individual containers. Used to delivering it bulk to restaurants, eggs, just all sorts, things that they take out of the CPI, food and heat, things like that. But the supply chain being decimated as well. And if people want a good example, give David Knight credit, who, by the way, we're bringing on KHNC exclusively here shortly, a couple weeks. But he talks about a story, iPencil, all of the components that go into making the simple little pencil, and what happens when the supply chain for that is affected. And we're talking about magnitude, a greater order of the supply chains being impacted already. Jason,
yep, and that's a good segue into this video. Remember, when he starts pointing fingers at these news stories, think broken monetary system, not, when a ship dumps cargo into the ocean and they show it on the TV, it's like, oh my gosh, look at this, things are going to be worse now. Well, ships dump cargo into the ocean. It happens. That's why people have insurance. These things do happen. When some ship gets stuck in the Suez Canal and suddenly the whole world's looking at it. Well, that happens sometimes. They act like these are events that never happen. So he's going to bring those up. But just remember, the one I disagree with this guy. That's not what's going on here. This is an inherent messed up economic situations worldwide. Here we go.
Since last year's holiday season, major U.S. retailers have been struggling to restock on a wide range of food staples. Walmart, Costco, Target, and H-E-B are reporting shortages of goods such as baking goods, ramen, milk, cheese, peanut butter, brisket, canned soup, beans, and dried pasta that started to happen in that period and have been lingering since then as the recent disruptions continue to add pressure on grocery chains all across the nation. In fact, grocers have been limiting purchases due to dwindling stocks, just as we've seen during the early days of the health crisis. According to Walmart U.S. CEO John Furner, there is a major concern amongst food retailers about jelly, bacon, spices, and breakfast food shortages. A coffee shortage is also being registered after the Suez blockage delayed the delivery of tons of raw coffee beans to European ports, which traditionally sends processed powdered coffee to the U.S. Brian Bork, the chief growth officer of Seiko Logistics, told CNBC that the blockage would aggravate retailers' hardships to restock for months. The timing of this could not be worse, he said. You have stimulus checks going into the hands of consumers. After every stimulus check, we have seen a huge surge in product volume. We're talking to businesses that are running out of inventory. How can you have a stimulus if you can't buy anything, he asked. The truth is that American consumers will likely witness empty aisles once again, as the food shortage problem is also being aggravated by the fallout of the Texas winter storms. A month after an unprecedented chill wave blanketed the Lone Star State with snow and left millions of people in the dark with no water, no access to food, retailers and food banks are concerned there won't be enough fresh produce to meet the fast increasing demand over the next months. Many Texan farmers lost their entire crops to the ravaging cold temperatures. The Texas Agriculture Commissioner, Sid Miller, revealed in an interview that grapefruit and orange trees in the Rio Grande Valley and leafy greens in the Winter Garden area north of Laredo and southwest of San Antonio have been completely destroyed, and millions of gallons of milk have had to be dumped too. Similarly, J. Allen Carnes, a third-generation farmer in Uvalde, disclosed that almost 100 acres of cabbage and onions have been lost because plants couldn't withstand days of freezing temperatures. The president of Winter Garden Produce warned that even more acres could be lost in the next...
I'm going to stop there because we're going to be hitting a break here soon, Brian, but... we've had freezes before. We've had massive flooding. We've had these weather elements destroy crops in certain areas of the country, but that didn't mean that the furniture stores had no furniture in there that you could buy, or that people couldn't hire people to work at the fast food joints or the restaurants, right, Brian? They're giving us a false story.
As the squeeze continues, and look for all these other excuses, whether it's coronavirus or Suez Canal ship or what do they call the storms, cyclone bomb, all these scary sounding things to distract from what's really going on in this fraudulent currency system that we're not the only ones. It's worldwide. Ours just happens to be the Federal Reserve System, and the constant squeeze and the skinny supply chain, the skinny reserves. Very intolerant to any major disruptions, and I mean, disruption doesn't even begin to describe when this can't be kicked any farther down the road.
We'll be right back. One more segment on a Jack Daniels Friday, Fake News Friday, if you're going to listen to Colorado later today. We'll be right back.
Yeah, just again reiterating that Patriot bringing you options. That's what we do. We bring you options so that you can minimize the impacts of the insanity perpetuated largely by the central banks. In our case of the United States, the Federal Reserve System. Every word about that, except for maybe system, is a lie. It's not federal, have no reserves, but yet they've got a great Ponzi scheme, multi-level marketing system going, and all of us at the bottom just suffer whatever happens, the consequences from these foolhardy decisions. Monetary policy, Jason.
Totally agreed, Brian. I want to bring in, since we're finishing the show off, we do have an event that we do every Friday. We get together with our listeners. We'll do a movie night, or we have a guest speaker. This week we have Tale of Despero. It's an animated. It's a fairy tale. So kings and princesses, and there's a mice, and there's these community of mice. Despero is this mouse that I think a lot of humans could learn from, but it's going to be kid friendly. I don't suggest a lot of 2 or 3 year olds because people want to watch the flick. If you're an adult, this is not something that you're not going to like to watch. This is it's got good, strong content, so don't be frightened off away. We don't have a lot of kids that show up to these events anyways, but come on over. We're going to have Dominic's Pizza is going to be providing the food. They're catering, so if you want to get a slice of pizza in a movie, come on over. 5 o'clock, we're going to serve the pizza up. Start the movie.
Local pizza across the street.
Yeah, we'll get that information in a second. But Dominic's Pizza is going to be giving us the food for the event. Doors open at 5. We'll have the pizza here ready to go. The movie will start probably a little before 6. We'll usually start at 6. We might go 5:45, even 5:30 if we got a full enough house. And Dominic's Pizza, you can pick. If you're not going to come to the event tonight, you can visit Dominic's Pizza right here at 19.5 South Parish Avenue. The phone number if you want delivery or if you want to do a pickup, Jake is the owner. He's been really supporting what we do here. 970-587-2883. Dominic's Pizza, 970-587-2883. This weekend you can swing through Johnstown, pick up a pizza, tell them thanks for being a part of what KHNC, the radio station, is doing. And that's how things work around here. So definitely support and come over. Come see a really good movie, not some of the crap that they're putting out there in the theaters, right, Brian?
Right. I just got to get this out since it's Despero is a French name, right? Oui.
Yes. So it'll be a lot of fun, Brian. I'm gonna play a couple of minutes of this guy that I played earlier. I didn't get as much on, but let's listen to a minute of this before we go off the air. Retail Apocalypse.
Did we get a special today, Jason? Did we get a special?
Yeah, I did. I said earlier we got 10th ounce gold liberties, gold eagles for $265. We got another roll of those coming. $265 for a 10th ounce Gold Eagle, and we have $10 Liberties for $1,035. Call 800-951-0592. Brian, I'm going to play a little bit of this as we go off the air, but you got to listen. The retail apocalypse, it is on its way.
According to a recent UBS analysis, the United States is on the verge of losing 10,000 more stores this year. So far.
All right. Never enough show on the morning show. We'll be back here on 1360khnc.com at 3 o'clock Colorado time. Otherwise, you'll hear from Joe next Monday.